Are we ready? Okay, let's go. Up from the depths, 30 stories high, breathing fire. It's the Kaiju Groupie Podcast. Wait, hang on. Something doesn't feel quite right with this one. I don't know, just something doesn't feel right. Can we try another one? I know you've got two more. Yep, I'm ready. Go ahead and roll it. Welcome to the Kaiju Groupie Podcast, a Kaiju podcast where the host truly believes. Wait, hang on. Whoa. Stop. Kenny, stop. Are you sure these are all original ideas? Because they all feel oddly familiar to me. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're not ripping off other shows. So if we have one more to go through, let's go ahead and run through that one and see what comes out of it. Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, I'm ready. Let's go. Okay, stop. Just stop. This is obviously a ripoff. Where did you get this? What do you mean you found it? Okay, I've had enough. Kenny, you're fired. Get out. No, I'm serious, Kenny. I'm serious. Get out. You are fired. I guess when you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. Let's see what I can find here. This could work.
A happy moment.
Hello and welcome to episode 0 of the Kaiju Groupie Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Hamilton, better known around these parts as the Kaiju Groupie and co-host of the Kaiju Weekly Podcast, along with my good friend, Travis Alexander. For this episode, I just wanted to take a little bit of time, introduce myself, give a little bit of background on where I'm coming from and why I'm even doing my own show. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you. If you're still around, even after that admittedly cringy intro skit, I appreciate it. It truly does mean a lot that you're still listening, even through all that. So as you can tell, I am fairly heavily influenced by other podcasts in the community. They're some of my best friends, and I would not even have the guts to even start this show without their support. So I just wanted to give a little bit back in the form of some humor to the community. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you didn't, that's okay. It'll probably be the last time that I do a skit like that. I just wanted to do something a little bit campy and a little bit fun to intro us in for this inaugural episode of the Kaiju Groupie Podcast. So again, like I said, I'm Michael. I'm also the co-host of the Kaiju Weekly Podcast along with my good friend Travis. And I want to say thank you to Travis, honestly, before I start this, because he was so gracious enough to invite me on to Kaiju Weekly back in January. And our first episode together as a guest host at the time was episode 9. We did, what was it? Frankenstein Conquers the World was the very first episode. It was episode 9. So if you don't listen to the Kaiju Weekly Podcast, I'm assuming you do, because if you're listening to this, you probably listen to the Kaiju Weekly Podcast as well. I want to encourage you to go back, listen to episode 9 of Kaiju Weekly, where we covered Frankenstein Conquers the World. That was a really good conversation between Travis and I. So I hope you enjoy that and leave us a little bit of feedback too. The first question I kind of want to answer is, why am I even starting my own show when there's already a ton of giant monster, kaiju, Godzilla related podcasts out on the internet already? And the simple answer is, there is no simple answer. No, I'm kidding. The simple answer is that it's sort of a passion project for me. Something that started a few months ago in a conversation. I believe I was having it either with Travis during the pre-show of Kaiju Weekly, or it may have even sparked during a conversation between me and my friend Nathan of the Monster Island Film Vault podcast, where I said that I would love to have one-on-one conversations with folks around the fandom, around the kaiju and the Godzilla tokusatsu fandom, because over the past year or so, I've been able to interact with a lot of people around this community, and I've really enjoyed myself. And so I thought, why not record those conversations? Because some of the talks that we've had, some of the really deep conversations we've had have been really, really good, and they should be shared within the community. And now I'm not trying to prop myself up as this kaiju intellectual. I'm not. I'm just an average guy from West Virginia in the United States, and who just happens to love Godzilla and kaiju. And I love having conversations with people. I love people. People get on my nerves sometimes, but such is life. But yeah, I started this. It started as an idea that I had, and it's really just sort of a passion project for me. It's something I've always had in the back of my mind for a while. And right now seemed like as good a time as any to start a podcast by myself. And I just want to say again that I was inspired by a lot of the folks within the community, like Nathan at the Monster Island Film Vault, Travis at Kaiju Weekly, David at the Kaiju Apostle, the guys at Monsters vs. Men, Eric and Alex, the guys from Tokyo Lives, Kaiju Transmissions, GargantuCast, Kaiju Conversations. Elijah has been a huge, huge inspiration to me. Yeah, I could go on and go down the laundry list of inspirations that I've had and people that have spoken into my life to encourage me to actually do this. But that would fill up an entire episode in itself. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and kind of share a little bit about the show, what's going to be coming, why I'm even starting the show. I think I've covered that pretty well. It's just really just to have one-on-one conversations. I want to build the community by having these, what I feel like is important conversations. Even the lighthearted conversations are important to me because they're a way for you guys, the listener, to connect with me and to connect with other folks within the fandom that we normally wouldn't get a chance to talk to. And that's one of the reasons why I've enjoyed myself so far after coming back into the Godzilla fandom in 2014 with the first Legendary film, and then really ramping it up in 2018, 2019 when King of the Monsters dropped into theaters. That's when my love for this community really ignited really ignited to a point where I just love hanging out with these people. And it's kind of a weird thing to say because a lot of us are estranged. A lot of us are separated by either geography or other reasons. A lot of us are in different states. Some of us are in different countries. But I've been able to find a community of people within this fandom that I can sincerely now call my friends. And a lot of the conversations you're going to hear over the next few months are just conversations between friends. The old friends, myself and Nathan, Travis, David, and then some new friends that I've made along the way. And hopefully you guys are going to get some kind of value from that. And that's what my hope, and that's really what I'm hoping for, honestly. So to answer another question that I had from someone when I was talking about this was, do I plan on leaving Kaiju Weekly? No, I don't plan on leaving Kaiju Weekly. I'm not going to break up the Beatles, Travis. Don't worry. But yeah, I don't plan on leaving Kaiju Weekly anytime soon. I have a lot of fun on Kaiju Weekly reviewing films and television shows with Travis. It's a lot of fun. And it's a really great way, it's a really great outlet for me and for him just to have a conversation with each other, really. It's two nerds having a conversation with between ourselves about our favorite and not so favorite films and television shows, and even conversations with people that we normally would not get a chance to talk to. One of the conversations that really stands out to me, I can't remember what the episode number was, but it was the conversation between me, Travis, and Dr. Zarka, or Dr. Z for short, from Monstrum, and we reviewed and we discussed Godzilla versus Mothra in 1992, The Battle for Earth. We had a really good discussion. You know, both Travis and Dr. Z are huge Mothra fans, and you can probably, if you go back and listen to that episode, I'll link it in the show notes here, but if you go back and listen to that episode, you can honestly tell that they're extremely enthusiastic about not only that film, but, you know, Mothra. And, you know, it's not just Mothra, it's Godzilla, Mothra, the whole kit and caboodle that Travis and I cover. And I'm extremely grateful for Travis allowing me to fill in for Steven way back in January with our first episode 9 together. And I've been extremely grateful to Travis for just kind of showing me the ropes, really, of podcasting, showing me how it's done. We're not professionals by no means, don't get me wrong. But I feel like I've had such a great time on Kaiju Weekly reviewing these films with Travis that I really kind of wanted to start my own show and have more in-depth one-on-one conversations that we necessarily cannot get into on Kaiju Weekly just due to time. We try to keep the episodes on Kaiju Weekly about an hour and a half. Sometimes they get a little longer. Because Travis and I just don't know how to shut up sometimes, but that's okay. We do have a lot of fun doing that show. And like I said, short answer, I'm not leaving Kaiju Weekly. I have too much fun on Kaiju Weekly to leave. So yeah, there's that. So what is the main kind of mission of the Kaiju Groupie podcast? And I think I may have already covered that, but I wrote down an official mission statement because I'm just that kind of person. And the official mission statement stands at building a community through conversations with kaiju and tokusatsu fans just like you. And that's really what it amounts to. I just want to have conversations with my friends, new friends, old friends, about kaiju and tokusatsu. And hopefully that will encourage a lot of you guys out there that don't necessarily feel super connected to the fandom. Hopefully, you as the audio listener are gonna get a sneak peek into us and our lives and our passions toward this fandom and why we love it so much. You know, it is interesting to think about a fandom centered around guys in rubber suits, which sort of is what it amounts to if you look at it at sort of a surface level. But what podcasts like the Kaiju Apostle and Monsters vs. Men has tried to show us, and I believe successfully, is that there's a lot deeper that we could go with these films. And I feel like, from my perspective, that there's even a lot deeper that we can go with our conversations about with each other. Not necessarily about these films, because this is not going to be a film review podcast. That's not what I want to do here. I want to have one-on-one conversations with folks within the fandom about various topics. It's not always going to be about one specific kaiju or one specific film. Of course, there will be films referenced in our conversations because that's sort of what brings us all together. But I want to have sort of more topical discussions with some of these guys and girls within the fandom that I feel are doing interesting things, that are creators in that are creators themselves. And I find what they're doing, I'm curious about that. And so I want to have those conversations with those folks for your enjoyment, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. I don't know if you will. I'm just kind of hoping in the future here that you're going to enjoy these conversations. I think you will. I think you will, because the conversations that I'm thinking of having, at least they're interesting to me. I hope they're interesting to other people. I hope I'm not the only one out here that thinks that toy and figure photography is interesting. I hope I'm not the only one that thinks that that a writer can gain a lot of influence. Someone who is a self-professed author and a fairly successful writer can gain inspiration from this fandom. And so that's sort of the conversations that I'm going to be having with these folks. And they're not all going to be serious, deep, very thoughtful conversations. I will try to make them as thoughtful as I can. But some of them are going to be really fun. There's one that I'm thinking of right now that's it's going to be interesting, to say the least. I'm trying to lock that one down and make it happen. But it's going to be a lot of fun. You'll find out more about that a little bit later. But yeah, so some other topics that I think would be fun to cover is I want to just give a spotlight to other creators in the fandom, people who are doing interesting things either as their day job or as their hobby. And like I think I referenced folks that do toy photography and folks that do just kaiju related photography in general. I find that super interesting. As someone who dabbles in that himself, it's incredibly, I found that it's incredibly difficult. At least it's a lot more difficult than it looks. And so I'm extremely curious about the folks that actually take the time to do that and do it well. And so those are the type of conversations that I'm going to be having. Also, I'm going to have I have one topic in particular that I kind of want to touch on with a good friend of mine about faith and fandom, about being a person of faith who is also a fan of Godzilla, Kaiju, and Tokusatsu. And so hopefully that conversation will be extremely interesting. And I already alluded to the conversation I'm going to be having with an author, someone who is a very good writer, in my opinion. And I'm going to be talking with him about, how he's influenced in his writing from all of this. And so that hopefully will be a great conversation. So that kind of leads me into what episode 1 is going to be about. Episode 1, I asked my friend and co-host of Kaiju Weekly, Travis, to come on with me and just discuss how to stay positive. How to stay positive within the fandom while it seems like the entire world is burning down all around us. And we can all admit that 2020 has been, to say the least, interesting. It's been weird and chaotic and interesting, to say the least, because we're just living in this really odd, chaotic is really the best way I know how to put it, time in our history. And so we had that conversation, just how as a fan, as a Godzilla and Tokusatsu fan, how to stay positive through all of this and through all of everything that's going on around us, and how not necessarily to shut off the world around you, but you can view it through a more positive lens. We went into how he became a Godzilla fan, and that's probably going to be a running theme throughout this entire program. Is I'm going to be asking my guests how they actually came into the fandom, because we don't always share the same story. I feel like we all share similar stories, since this genre of film is so unique and so different than some of the others out there, and this fandom in general, I feel like is very unique to as apart from some of the other fandoms like Marvel and DC and some others. But I feel like we all have similar stories, but there are different ways that we tell our own story, and so I want to allow those folks to kind of tell their story on how what this fandom has done for them and how they came into it and how it's influenced their day to day and how it's influenced their relationships. So yeah, that's going to be sort of episode 1. Travis wanted to talk about how to just sort of stay positive, because Travis is known for being an unapologetic optimist, is what he calls himself. And I really appreciate that about him. So I wanted to have him on episode 1 and also just as sort of a way to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of Kaiju Weekly. I wanted to have him on episode 1 as my very first guest. So yeah, that's pretty much it for right now. I just kind of wanted to give you sort of my thoughts and what I'm thinking about the show. I just wanted to have this very loose, candid conversation with you guys, let you know what's going to be going on, and hopefully you are willing and able to come alongside me in this journey as I talk to all of these people within the Kaiju and Tokusatsu fandom. And if you do, I really, really appreciate it. I really would appreciate it if you would come alongside me over the next few months and listen to these conversations, interact with myself and some of the people that I'm going to be talking with. And one thing that I want to say that during these episodes, I will be reading your emails and your comments during the show or at the end of the show, just whenever I can fit them in or whenever they're appropriate. Because I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear your thoughts, your likes and your dislikes about these conversations. I want this to be a very open discussion within the community, and hopefully we'll all be better off for that. So yeah, if you want to email a question or a comment or just a thought you had about Kaiju, Tokusatsu, Godzilla, just whatever within, just whatever you're thinking within this genre of film, the Kaiju community, please email me at kaijugroupiepod@gmail.com. I would be more than happy to read your comments and your thoughts on a future episode. Episode 1 has already been recorded, but on subsequent episodes, the episodes that would come after that, I would be more than happy to read your comments on those. Be more than happy to have those open discussions with you. So yeah, if you guys want to have those conversations, that's perfectly, it's a great way to get in touch with me. Honestly, like I said, I just wanted to have this candid, honest conversation with you guys, just to give you a little bit of background on who I am, why I'm starting the show, and hopefully, like I said, you'll come alongside me during this journey, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you, or I will hear from you, or you'll hear from me rather, in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Kaiju Groupie Podcast, a podcast produced and hosted by Michael Hamilton using redcircle.com. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to continue this conversation, please email me directly at kaijugroupiepod@gmail.com. Also, follow us on social media by joining the Kaiju Groupie Facebook group, on Twitter at Kaiju Groupie Pod, and on Instagram at The Kaiju Groupie. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you find your favorite giant monster podcasts. Also, please take a moment to rate and review the show. This will help spread the word to other Kaiju and Tokusatsu fans, and if you do, I promise I'll read your comments on the next episode. All film, audio clips, and graphics belong to their respective copyright holders, with no infringement being intended or implied. So until next time, I'm Michael, the Kaiju Groupie, signing off.